This November 6th, 2023, regular Medicine Hat City Council meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. We'll begin with the land acknowledgement. The City of Medicine Hat acknowledges that we live and work on treaty territory. The city pays respects to all Indigenous peoples and honors their past, present, and future. We recognize and respect their cultural heritages and relationships to the land. And now we will have a moment for prayer or reflection. All right. We're now at item number 5, adoption of previous council meeting minutes. First, we have 5.1, regular meeting of City Council, October 16th, 2023. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, the minutes of the October 16th regular City Council meeting are adopted for the record. Item 5.2, Medicine Hat City Council organizational meeting minutes, October 16th, 2023. So, are there any errors or omissions to report there? Seeing none, those are adopted for the corporate record. Item 6, adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or errors? Seeing none, the agenda is adopted. Are there any councillor announcements this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that any councillor wishes to pull from the consent agenda? Councillor McGrogan.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd like to pull 8.7 regarding the police commission meeting minutes. I'd like to make a comment when appropriate.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. You can go ahead and make your comments, Councillor McGrogan.
Thank you. And through the chair, I just actually want to congratulate Constable Bev Kennedy. I read the chief's report with great interest that Bev Kennedy was played a major role in saving somebody's life who was suicidal. And knowing her and knowing her character, I'm just proud of her actions and her duty, and want to commend her for her work.
Thank you, Councillor McGrogan. Does anyone want to move the adoption of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Items as presented?
I will second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the motion to adopt the items in the consent agenda as presented.
We have one council member online.
Councillor Sharps, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
All right, that's unanimous. The next item on our agenda is delegations. And tonight we have with us the for Family Violence Prevention Month, the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter Society. And please introduce yourselves and welcome. Also feel free to introduce the members that you've brought with you as well.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, Mayor Clark, City Council, City Manager Mitchell, and the Managing Directors. Thank you so much for having us here again this November to talk about Family Violence Prevention Month. I have Peggy Ravel with me. She's our Community Education and Awareness Coordinator. I'm sure you've seen her out and about, as well as some members of my board, Miles Thorson, Joanne Smith, Jen Kerslake, and Inspector Brent Secondiak. So thank you for having us. We're just really appreciate an opportunity to let you know about the ongoing work we're doing at the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter and just some of our future plans. And I know all your faces from all our past events, and we really appreciate all the support over the years and the partnership. We really appreciate that with the city. So this is Family Violence Prevention Month. We signed the proclamation a week early and we got it done. And we did our memorial walk last week and we tied purple ribbons all around downtown and had some great conversations with people about the importance of bringing attention to Family Violence Prevention Month and why it's important to have those conversations so that we can end stigma and, you know, work towards ending the cycle of violence. So we have a bunch of things coming up this month. Peggy's been busy organizing around the town. So we're at the library, we're at the Viner Center, we were at the Tigers game last Friday. We got to drop the puck and have community corner up there, and we've got our Christmas hamper program starting. So a lot of things that we really just try to be out there as much as possible to almost kind of flood the community with information about why it's important and where you can go when you need some help. These are some of our supports. So COVID taught us that the helpline was great, but it wasn't enough, that a lot of people were stuck at home in unsafe situations and needed another way to contact us for support. So we started a text and web chat line last year, and that's been really critical and really people love it. It's being well received in the community, so people are using that a lot. Our helpline numbers have gone up quite a bit. Even this year, we're seeing a lot more calls coming through and definitely people needing those supports. I won't tell you all our different programs because I know you've all heard my blurb before, but I just want to remind you that we run a Phoenix Safe House is our emergency shelter where people can come and be for 21 to 30 days. We're definitely seeing people stay there a lot longer. Right now, some of the issues are lack of affordable housing in the community and lack of safe places for them to go. So that is definitely impacting the length of stay where people are remaining with us for longer, therefore kind of sometimes affecting how many people we can take in at the other end. So we're just trying to work with that. Musasa House, our second stage shelter, houses 10 families of any kind of configuration, and that still remains the only second stage shelter south of Calgary. So we do have a pretty big catchment area and we do get a lot of demand for that. So that place is pretty much full. So tonight alone, there's 19 adults and 20 kids in our two shelters over there tonight. So we also offer outreach services. As you know, we have a great partnership with the Medicine Hat Police Service. We've been running that program for almost 10 years now. And it's a great program that allows us to respond in a timely manner to people who are needing support and maybe offer some early interventions before things become a bit more of an epidemic. We've been running a domestic abuse response team program with AHS for the past year. Unfortunately, their funding has run out at AHS, so we're winding that up, but looking for different ways to still have that support with the hospital. Sure, thanks. So as you can see, our shelter helplines line calls, shelter 24/7 helpline call was over 25,000 minutes, and that's our calls are up 42% this year. So definitely out seeing a lot more people coming in and calling in and asking for supports. And it's not always about intakes into the shelter. Sometimes it's just about how to support friends or family, or just trying to understand a little bit about what kind of services we offer and who they could refer to and those kind of things. So we're definitely glad that that's available, and that's available 24/7 for people. You can see our total stats there for the year are, almost 1,200 people. I think of what's significant to me always is that 250 of those were children, and that's children in our community. So I think that's still pretty important, that there's a lot of children being affected by family violence. And I always say to people, they're not just exposed to it, they're impacted by it. Try to remember that they're impacted, and studies and research shows that children are affected even in the womb and for violence. So we know that the long-term effects are huge and long-lasting, and so we work really hard when children come into our shelter to offer them some wraparound supports with family support workers and being able to offer them safe places to be able to talk and figure out what's going on for them as well.
Ms. Carvello, can I interrupt you for a question at this point?
Yes, please.
So it says, you say 251 children served, so those are people that would actually attend at your facility?
Yeah, attend either shelter or attend through outreach programming. Yeah.
So would there be, like, in some cases, the children just, they wouldn't come at, like, maybe one of the spouses would come, but maybe the children would remain at home? Does that happen quite frequently?
It does sometimes happen depending on safety. Sometimes mom has just been able to flee without the children, and often the children will come later. Sometimes we see that happening. Sometimes there's child and family services involvement, that the kids might be in care at that time due to what's been going on at the home, so they also are coming in at a later time. So it sometimes does depend based on that. But
Thank
that
you.
answer that? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. So our snapshot is about Phoenix Safe House. As you know, we launched our capital campaign September 19th at our AGM. Many of you were in attendance, so thank you for that. The reason we have decided to go ahead with a renovation is just due to some capacity issues and really wanting to go and be more inclusive and have ability to offer inclusive soft spaces. So our Phoenix Safe House is in great shape. It's a 25-year-old facility. Many of you have been through tours of the place. It opened in 1999 as an 11-bed shelter. The shelter is now a 30-bed shelter, but in the same physical blueprint. We've never done any expansions to the building. So those of you who know, who've been in there, have seen how creative we are in terms of how we juggle the bedrooms and the spaces to make sure that people get the services that they need. So we have 9 bedrooms on the upstairs level, and there's 1 barrier-free downstairs. Some of our programming is also in the basement, the daycare, the group room, and the laundry. So some of that is some of our struggles in terms of being able to be accessible to everybody. So we launched our capital campaign in September, and our focus is about basic human needs. And that's really all this is about, is that we just need to upgrade our facilities to be able to offer basic things like bathrooms, more bathrooms. There's one of the things that COVID taught us in terms of when you're trying to isolate people during a pandemic is that you really shouldn't share bathrooms. But how it is right now is that we have 9 bedrooms on our upper level with only 2 bathrooms. And so when you are in the middle of a pandemic and somebody comes in with COVID, and during COVID, we were really reaching out to the community and telling people to come in as they needed, because that was to be safe, right? We weren't worried about them having COVID, we were worried about their life. So we asked them to come in, but then we had to isolate them. So then that took up a bathroom. And so just things like that, right? And a mom comes in with a bunch of kids and she's trying to do bath time routine. It's hard when you have to use a shared bathroom. There's a lot of back and forth. And so it's nothing fancy, but it's just those kind of things that we just feel like it's the time to start doing some of that work and remove some of those barriers and make our space a little bit more inclusive. So we're upgrading our building. We're trying to, one of the things is we need to update our fire suppression system. You'll appreciate that. So we need to update that. We have to modernize some of our security systems. It's a highly secured building. It's we have cameras and security fences and everything, as you can appreciate, for security. And what we'd like to do is add bathrooms into the upstairs bedrooms, and so that every bedroom has their own bathroom. And we're just wanting to give people some privacy and a little bit of dignity to have that in their bedroom. So it's not increasing the size up there, it's just adding them to the bathroom, into the bedrooms. So that's one of the things we're doing. We only have 1 barrier-free bedroom, and that fills up pretty fast. We're definitely seeing a lot more women coming in who have injuries due to abuse, and their mobility is limited. So there's a lot of people on crutches. There's a lot of women who've had head injuries. Strangulation, we know, is on the rise. And so there's been a lot of those things where there's just been some issues with accessibility, and unfortunately, a lot of our things are just in the basement. So it's hard for them to get to do their laundry. It's hard for them to take their kids down to daycare. And that's where our group room is, and so that doesn't work so well either. So our new plan is to bring all those up to the main floor and create a nice daycare space that has light and access to the backyard and the playground, laundry, and more rooms on the main floor. As well as our outreach services, we moved them off-site almost 10 years ago now to be able to break down some of those barriers that come with stigma with reaching out to shelters. And so A lot of people don't feel like they need to come in, or sorry, I shouldn't say it that way. A lot of people feel they can't come to shelter if they don't need the bed. But what we want to make sure that people understand is if you're still in an unsafe situation, it doesn't matter if you need a bed or not. If you need to come in and talk to someone, please come in and talk to us. So when we opened the SFIT program, we realized there's a lot of people out there, women especially, who said that they didn't realize they could access services without coming to the shelter. So we set up outreach offices. But now, after all these years, we've really worked hard to reduce a lot of that barrier and stigma, as well as we now take men into our shelter as well. We're an all-gender facility, so that broke down some of that barrier, so we would just really like to bring the outreach services back on site. We know that that'll be better for service delivery in terms of those clients being able to access the daycare, being able to access the shelter if they need it, and just be able to work more as a cohesive team. So that's one of our goals too, is to add on some offices to do that. So, that's why we just wanted to let you know what was going on. We feel that we can do this. The board and our previous boards have been extremely fiscally responsible, putting aside money and putting aside reserves towards this project over the years. It's definitely been a long-term plan. And so with grants from the provincial and federal government, we have about $2 million of our own money and that to put towards our global bigger budget, which is about $8.5 million, and then we're launching this capital campaign. So we're feeling very confident that we can go to the community and ask for support. They've been always very supportive of us and generous to us, so we're planning just different ways to be able to talk to different groups, to talk to them about how can we can reach this goal. So we're not asking you for financial support at this time. We might return at a later date, but we just wanted to let you know, like, this is what we're doing in our community. We're asking for some continued partnership, support, and advocacy to continue this life-saving work. We really just, the more we can advocate to provincial and federal government levels would be super helpful in our work. And we just really want to make sure that clients have a safe place to land and a sense of security and a sense of belonging. And I know that's a lot of your strategic visions too. And so that's really what we're trying to create in creating this environment. So we will keep you updated how we're doing on this great campaign, and we appreciate the support. And if we come back towards you to just maybe help us when we have provincial partners in town and things like that to have conversations, that would be really helpful. I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Knodel.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, through the chair, to Natasha and Peggy. I really appreciate you being here, and I wrote in my notes, being in a professional setting like this, it's kind of hard to explain with true, authentic emotion how much I appreciate the work that you do without still having to hold on to the composure of a professional setting. But please know from the depths of my heart how much I appreciate the work you do, and how much I appreciate how much space you have to hold emotionally for the people that you work with, and that's not easy, and you're both committed along with your board and your staff, and so sincerely. So I have a couple different comments and then a couple different questions. So my two comments are, I love the basic human needs campaign. The Maslow's hierarchy iconography is fantastic. I'm a bit of a graphic arts nerd, so that's
London Road Marketing, they took it out of the park.
Oh,
yeah.
awesome! Yeah, I saw the billboard by Superstore and went, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then the other comment was that I go to Tigers games probably once every 3 years. I just don't go often. It's not that I don't like them. I just don't have a lot of free time on the weekend. And I happened to be at the game this past weekend and got to see you drop the puck and got to see your little corner that you had set up. So that was really cool. And I'm glad that you're out in the community. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. So I did have written, I was curious about your $6 million fundraising campaign. I've made some notes. I'm just wondering, how can the community best engage with you in order to help meet your goal? And I know you've kind of spread it out in a bullet list here, but maybe you can just make a couple comments.
I guess we're just, my hope is that we can talk to businesses and corporations and, maybe have them think about, maybe we can break it down to like some naming rights for some of the new rooms that we're building and things like that maybe some people would come on board like that. I've spoken to a couple of Rotary clubs. I'm hoping to get around to more of those and, see where they would be interested in supporting with some of that support. And so, and that's sort of all we're doing at this point. We're hoping to just maybe have conversations more on, maybe in small group sort of settings, and let people kind of really know what the work is, and, you know, maybe even bring them to the shelter so they can understand. Once you walk through it, you kind of understand how squishy it is and how we're just kind of overlapping spaces. And so that, I'm just hoping for some, that's sort of how we'll spread the word about that.
And then one more question, if you're okay with it. Last question. So how do you help a young person who's been exposed to abusive family situations throughout their upbringing, and it's normalized to them? How do you help them recognize that their environment isn't safe or normal?
Yeah, Peggy does a lot of work in the school, so I might almost throw this to her, because she does a lot of conversations with teens in healthy relationships and stuff like that. We're just trying to work on getting her into some of the comm classrooms to have those talks.
So they already know it's not okay. In their gut, they know it because they're living it. They don't feel safe and they know that's not okay. So it's really pulling upon that thread. And once you start those conversations, and giving them a space to be open about their experiences, connecting them. We have an amazing child and youth outreach team who I cannot say enough about. They're amazing, and they really make youth feel safe when they connect. Even the text line and web chat, that is another way that we're seeing more youth connect, just giving them that space. But we all want to be treated with dignity and respect. I think that is something fundamental we all know. So youth know something is wrong, something is off. It's just giving them the space to figure out. And the thing I always say, we always say abuse is a choice. You have so many choices. So what choices are you going to make? You don't have to repeat what's happened to you. And I know so many people who have grown up in homes where there has been abuse and violence, and just giving them the space to make the choices so they don't want to continue that for their generation, for their children, and building that space for them to make those choices.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I don't see anyone else on the speakers list. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation and all the work that you do for our community. Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing more about your funding campaign.
tuned.
I'm
Yes,
sure
we will
there
keep
will
you
be
posted as we
more
go.
in the near future.
Yes, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. All right, next up is unfinished business, item 11.1, bylaw 4736, to amend the public roads bylaw. And this is from Development and Infrastructure Committee, and it is for first reading.
I move that council amends bylaw 4736, a bylaw of the City of Medicine Hat, to amend the public roads bylaw as presented in the council report.
I will second that.
And we'll vote on first reading. Okay.
I vote yes.
Sorry, you're amending it.
That's all right.
You're amending it, Allison?
No,
Okay.
this was, sorry, I should have maybe given a little prelude to doing this. This was the bylaw that came forward at a meeting, and the sticking point was the size of the wheels versus age of children riding on sidewalks. So it went back to Development and Infrastructure. It was reviewed by the Solicitor's Office, came through that committee again. The amendments were made and reviewed by committee who felt comfortable with it and brought it forward to council.
I'm just going to confer with the city clerk on process. Because I note that it does, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clark. So yeah, my understanding is the bylaw has already had first reading, and now it's being presented. So the motion, in my view, and I think I discussed this earlier actually with Solicitor Bullock today, the motion should or could be to amend the bylaw. And if that motion is adopted, then move on to second reading and third reading. But first reading has occurred.
My apologies, I did say it was for first reading. So you'll have to make the amendments to it as presented in the council report.
Yes, so the motion I made was for the amendments, that they amend bylaw 4736 as presented in the council report.
Okay, sorry, that's what I was asking. So we will vote on we're voting on the amendment, not on first reading. Counselor Sharps, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
That's unanimous.
I move that council gives second reading to bylaw 4736 as amended.
Discussion? Seeing none? Oh, yep.
I'll second.
Discussion? Seeing none? Counselor Sharps, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
That's unanimous.
I move that council gives third and final reading to bylaw 4736 as amended.
I will second.
Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on third reading.
I vote yes.
That's unanimous, and bylaw 4736 is passed as amended. Moving on to new business. Medicine Hat Exhibition and Stampede Convention Center and Grandstand Project. This, I'm not sure, this came out of Public Services Committee. It says Public Services. Managing Director Stouth.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in front of you is a council report. We have been working for some time with Medicine Hat Exhibition and Stampede in regards to expansion of the facilities there, including demolition and reconstruction or construction of the North Grandstand, renovation of the South Grandstand, and the construction of a 500-seat multi-use room and connecting lobbies. The project is $37.5 million. The province of Alberta is currently suggesting they will grant $15 million towards the project. So the ask of the city of Medicine Hat is about $22 million, 15 through a grant, and 7.5, the ask is through a interest-free loan. We have asked on several occasions for business plans, for condition reports on existing infrastructure, projections for expenses and revenues, and to date we have not had success in getting many of those. We do have last 4 years of Stampede Board's financial statements, Medicine Hat Exhibition and Stampede financial statements. But at this point in time, it's difficult, if not impossible, for administration to make any kind of recommendation until Stampede Board can provide us with the information that we need to do the proper analysis and bring a recommendation forward. So the briefing note recommendation is simply that we stop work on this until the Medicine Hat Exhibition and Stampede's provided the information that's asked for in the council report. Thank you.
Do I make a motion now?
If you wish.
So through the chair, I move that council directs administration to take no action on the request until the documentation as detailed in the report has been received from the Medicine Hat Exhibition and Stampede.
I'll second.
Discussion? Councilor Robbins?
Thank you, and through the chair, I've heard the Stampede presentation, and hear our discussion about it and the questions that we asked, and I really want to be supportive of the Stampede, and I want to be supportive of their plan, and the fact that they've obtained provincial funding is a significant consideration. And so I want to do all of those things, but I find that some of the information that we've requested is really important to me, not so much on the grant side, but on the loan side, to understand better what the business plan is to repay that loan. So my focus is more on the loan than on the grant that's requested, but I sort of wish I could ask for action in one side and not the other, but I understand for the exhibition and Stampede, they've asked for it all in one, and so I can't parse them off myself unless they request for me, for all of us to do so. So I'm going to support Councillor McGrogan's his motion, although I will say extremely reluctantly, because I do want to be supportive of the Stampede.
Councillor McGrogan?
Thank you. And through the chair, just to be clear, I mean, it's obvious that there's things that are missing from the information that I know admin has been requesting from the Medicine Hat Exhibition and Stampede. As the kind of the council representative for the Medicine Hat Exhibition and Stampede, I'm very knowledgeable of the whole project and support it. But I think we just need to get that information to us, and I think this is just a springboard to get that information from them. So it's not a, no, we're not going to do this vote. It's a, we need these particular pieces of information in order to make an informed decision on behalf of the taxpayer, because this is a really big ask. So I hope to support this someday. So I'm looking forward to getting the information and then having that debate about where we are going to be and where we're not going to be. Thank you.
Councillor Hirsch?
Well, I appreciate the conversation about this issue for sure. I guess it was myself that wanted a little bit more specificity on what the ask was, what's the term of the loan and that sort of thing. So I appreciate you know, a little bit of due diligence that's been requested here. At the end of the day, I can't state whether or not I'm for or against it at this point in time, quite frankly, because we don't have all the information in front of us. But I think, you know, certainly when I go around the community, I think the ask is big. And I think about a lot of user groups in the community in terms of what their needs are. And we've had quite a few, and I don't, quite frankly, heard one presenter right now in terms of the women's shelter stating that they may be coming forward for an ask as well. So it's incredibly difficult, and the pressure's mounting on city municipalities and municipalities in general to, quite frankly, pick and choose who's the winners, who's the losers, because the pot is just not endless. And I kind of was trying to challenge a little bit on, and I think Councillor Robbins indicated the same in terms of what does kind of Plan B look like? Can this get parceled out? Can this be a phased approach? And I don't know if I've heard the answer yet. I did see the amended version, and I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was $4 million less than the actual ask. So I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around it again. I think the argument about what the Medicine Hat Exhibition and Stampede does for a community, I think that's even a non-starter. We all know what they contribute to the city Medicine Hat and to the residents. So that aside, part of us and our responsibility is to make decisions that affects the community in a you know, a tangible way. So, you know, I look forward for the feedback from the Stampede, and we'll certainly take the information and read it as I receive it. Thank you.
Councillor Knodel?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. I'm going to keep it quite simple. I initially felt a bit overwhelmed by the ask and how large it was, and I'm going to repeat a little bit of what has already been said, but I think for me to feel comfort, I need more data. I went to social media and did a poll on one of my accounts in regards to what people thought in the community about this particular request. And the first question that I posed was about, would you support the modernization of the Stampede grandstand and a conference space? And it was 50-50 split. And then when I asked, would you support it with this price tag, it became weighed more heavily in the side of a no vote. So I thought that was really interesting. I obviously am here to serve a particular population in the community. Well, that's not true. I'm here to serve the whole community, and the particular population that I asked the question to was the people that followed me. So anyways, I'm kind of biting my tongue, but what I want to say here is that I want to make a decision that is long-term, a good decision for all of the residents in Medicine Hat, because everyone pays taxes. So I'm looking forward to getting more information and making a decision that is pragmatic and isn't going to be a financial misstep for our organization and for the community.
Seeing no further speakers, we'll vote on the motion. Councillor Sharps, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And that's unanimous. Moving on to committee business, item 13.1, 2023-2032 Waste Management Strategy Report. We have with us Jamie Garland, Director of Environmental Utilities, and you can introduce the parties with you as well.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. I have with me tonight Shane Briggs, the interim manager for waste and recycling. The request before council tonight is to adopt the 2023, helps if I put my glasses on, 2023 to 2032 waste management strategy. So to start off the presentation, we have a very brief overview video of the city's current waste management system, and many of the components you will see in the video were born from past waste management strategies. We don't got sound. Well, we had some good sound, but it's not working.
We're working on it. If you'd like to just pause it and,
Go back.
yeah, that'd be great. So the waste management strategy deals with solid waste.
Yeah, so all the waste and recycling activities that are going on in the community, so that consists of the curbside programs as well as all the activities that happen at the landfill. So everyone is familiar with the green, blue, and gray carts in the community, as well as we have depots around the city and lots of different diversion activities out at the landfill. So the video kind of goes through that, and there is some verbiage that goes with it, but if the sound doesn't work, I can probably try to give a quick, try to keep up with it and go along as it goes.
There seems to be an issue with the sound.
Okay.
So,
We'll just-
will this video be, is it on our YouTube channel?
I'm not sure. It's kind of big. I'd have to talk to the IT department to see if it's
Okay.
something we can do or not.
Okay.
But yeah, certainly it's a good tool. We used it in other presentations for the Composting Council of Canada, so that's kind of where it came from, and we just tweaked it a little bit for this presentation tonight. So yeah, I'll try to keep up with it here. Maybe.
I think maybe we are working on just getting the video back to the beginning? Okay.
Just start all over. Or skip the video. There's a portion I could talk to later on. We thought it would be a good idea to have a video, maybe not.
It was a great idea. So we're just gonna, I think, restart the presentation from the beginning.
Okay,
I think we weren't that far in, so
yep.
shouldn't be too much of a delay. Do you want to just tell us why it's important to have a waste management strategy?
Sure. Well, it looks like here it goes. Just let me know when you want me to click. I'm good? Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go. Here's a video. Okay, this is
1969, the City of Medicine Hat's Waste Management Facility is a Class II non-hazardous site consisting of the municipal landfill, compost production and sales, and recycling and diversion amenities. The facility receives around 100,000 tons of material annually, 65,000 of which is successfully diverted through using the 4Rs principle of reduce, reuse, repurpose, recycle, and composting activities. Our diversion program consists of curbside residential yard waste and recycling carts, 3 drop-off bulk recycling depots, separating metal, appliances, tires, paint, batteries, electronic waste, used oil and grease, and household hazardous waste for recycling, reuse, or alternative safe disposal, and our Class 1 windrow compost operations that processes up to 20,000 tons of feedstock per year, repurposing the material into a healthy compost soil additive and saving significant space in the landfill. In Medicine Hat, leaf and yard waste from residential and commercial sources produces Category A compost for sale, while biosolids from our own wastewater treatment plant are used to make both Category A and Category B compost streams currently stockpiled for use as soil amendment in the landfill final cap. Here in Medicine Hat, we package our material as SureGrow multipurpose Category A compost in self-loaded bulk quantities. Medicine Hat is proud of the success of our current diversion efforts and are committed to continue investigating new and improved methods to extend the lifespan of the landfill for years to come.
That was much better than me speaking to it. Okay. Oh, it's going again. Okay, so with the expiry of the past waste management strategy, the Environmental Utilities Department engaged a well-respected and established waste management engineering consultant to assist in the development of the next 10-year strategy. The guiding principles from the past strategies were maintained as foundational guides in creating this strategic document. So this overview of current services is pretty straightforward. It's a summary of existing services the City of Medicine Hat offers currently, which was pretty much all covered off in the video. So on the collection side of things, a stunning fact related to the solid waste collection is the sheer number of contacts our staff and contractors have with our customers. Over the course of a single year, our department manages roughly 2.5 million collections, and coupled that with a 96% satisfaction level from the 2022 community survey, a lot of credit goes to our frontline staff. We're extremely proud of our frontline staff. They're always trying to help out the residents wherever they can, and this survey was a great reflection of their efforts. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank our terrific waste and recycling staff for their dedicated and excellent customer service. So one of the most critical assets for City of Medicine Hat waste management is landfill airspace. Airspace is quantified and valued by geospatial surveying, and additional airspace is difficult to secure and becoming increasingly cumbersome to acquire. Tactics we have include compacting the waste received with modern, sophisticated, but very expensive heavy-duty equipment. And one of the major components of this and past strategies for protecting landfill airspace is to increase the amount of waste we can divert. Currently, we divert approximately 3,200 tons of material for recycling, so that's the curbside carts, the depots, our waste roundup, and the landfill recycling activities. We have about 19,500 tons of material diverted through composting measures, which is our biosolids from the wastewater treatment plant, yard waste, wood waste, and commercial and self-hauled material. The periodic audits, or what we call staff waste scans, have identified approximately 35% of the gray cart material being organic waste, which is primarily food and pet waste. Meaning this high percentage of organic material in gray carts has a great opportunity to be further diverted from the landfill with additional programs and processes. So what that looks like in the grand scheme of things is about 10,000 tons of organic material in the gray carts. And with which could equate to approximately 5,000 to 6,000 tons of a targeted goal to divert in the early years of a composting program, a food waste composting program. So what's the purpose of a strategy? So a strategy is a guiding document, that is essentially a playbook for a municipality to utilize in efficiently researching the best practices and programs in waste management. As options are researched and appear favorably aligned to the principles within the strategy, they will be brought forward for budget and community engagement considerations. Some options will proceed to become actionable programs and projects, others may not, using these triple bottom line principles. Other options that are not identified in the strategy right now may arise, and they could be considered actionable if they align with the principles in the strategy. So again, the core principles of the past strategies are exactly what you see up there. They will remain in this 10-year strategy. Balancing the economic, environmental, and social factors will remain at the forefront for this strategy, as well as any actionable items that come before council for consideration. So ultimately, we're looking for utility sustainability. As stated earlier, landfill airspace is a major component of sustainability. It needs to be affordable. We look at using emerging technology. There's regulatory things that come into play, things like extended producer responsibility, which is coming before us in 2025. So what those programs and things look like, and the operational impacts, education, partnerships, and a whole host of other things. So with this, specifically with this strategy, we have the top 20 options which were reviewed and analyzed according to resourcing needs, which were operating and capital costs, proven and unproven status in Western Canada, and applicability to this city. So for council's consideration, one of the next steps administration could pursue right away should this waste strategy be adopted this evening is food waste composting piloting. Administration has researched grant opportunities applicable to this top-rated strategy, which is piloting of food waste composting. The grant eligibility would require a municipal plan or some type of strategy development approved by council, demonstrated the need for a study or a pilot, as well as a letter of commitment from the municipality confirming their monetary contributions, and the grant would be eligible for up to 50%, up to a maximum of $500,000. Approval of the waste management strategy and the next agenda item tonight being the briefing note funding request for food waste composting would satisfy the requirements to apply for the federal granting. And we've heard that it may take up to 6 months for these grant applications to be reviewed. So another piece that just came before us in the last couple weeks is we also have learned about another potential grant opportunity, which would be for up to $175,000. So that's, and there's no cost sharing on that one. It would be simply eligible up to $175,000. So we're certainly going to look to apply for that one also. So that concludes our presentation. Myself, Interim Manager Briggs, or Managing Director Bohan are happy to field any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I think Councillor McGrogan had, I lost the speakers list. So Councillor, nope, okay, it was the old one. Councillor Hirsch, thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. You know, I think it's amazing and it's not that everyone has it on their bucket list, but if you ever did a tour of the landfill, it's amazing kind of the work that gets done there, the technology, the analysis, the review. You know, back as a kid, I used to go with my grandpa and we'd do a dump run. And it was just dump it off and then off you go. But now, you know, really, it's just amazing some of the stuff that gets done out there in terms of how you segregate things and that sort of thing. The question I have is, and I'm reading a little bit in your report, it talks about a pilot project. It talks about, like, what could potentially be the ask of citizens with your new 10-year plan? So it takes all of us to kind of work towards kind of saving the landfill, if you will, because it is incredibly, and maybe that's another thing you might want to highlight, kind of what is the expense when it goes to looking at a new landfill? But I guess, what is the ask of the citizenry right now? Get a little bit on the pilot project maybe for us.
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor Hirsch, very good question. Landfills are astronomically high priced, or if not impossible. There's regulatory things to go through as well, so the likelihood of getting another landfill nearby, just for the city landfill, would be very challenging. So the cost of doing nothing is equally, if not more expensive than working with what we have. So I guess what we want to do is get this strategy adopted, and these are the types of things we want to look forward to and communicate with the community on why it's important, and all these various programs, current and future, are paramount to help keep the landfill as viable as long as possible. So I'm not sure if that fully answered your question, but for the piloting of the food waste compost, it's just going to be a small portion of the community to start with, but once we roll it out, that's where we'd really ask the community to buy in and help us save the airspace.
And I do know it's next on kind of on the topic, so I'll leave it at that, but I think there's going to be expansion on that, but appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Hyder.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Just a question for you, James. The pilot project, is that going to be, will that affect every resident in Medicine Hat, or are there certain areas of the community we're going to focus on?
Through the chair to Councillor Hyder, yeah, thanks for that question. It would just be a small portion of the community. So we have our collection routes, and we just pick out little routes within those routes around different parts of the city, and we would have those identified and relayed to those ratepayers that they're part of the pilot or not part of the pilot, and that would be out through communications as well, when who would be participating and who not. So we want to make sure we're very clear when it comes to that point, so people aren't confused.
Thank you.
Councillor McGrogan.
Thank you. Excellent presentation, and you made a comment about the high satisfaction of your staff and their customer service, and I want to congratulate whatever's happened in your culture. I remember over the last 42 years having some relatively negative experiences in the old days, but I have to tell you, the folks out there are tremendously helpful, and they do a great job. So I wanted to say that. I'm curious about if we're looking at this pilot project. I know we'll get into the financing next, but so we're gonna. What is this even reversible? If we start a composting program, if we say at the end, you know what, it's just not worth it, what then? So I guess I'd like you to just to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor McGrogan, thanks for the question. Yeah, it's ultimately if the pilot doesn't seem feasible once we've completed it, we would come back to council, and I anticipate we'll be coming back to council and recommending moving forward. There's lots of communities that do food waste composting. Most communities our size do in Alberta now. But we may have to further evaluate, like, once we get the information from the pilot, like, is the equipment we've selected and all the processes feasible, and then what is the financial ask at that time? So I think that we'll have to look back at those numbers and see when that comes forward.
Follow up, thank you. Through the chair, thank you. And I'm just curious though, I mean, we're gonna take a small micro kind of sample from the community. Sounds like lots of communities have done this already. It sounds like the practice is not, not breaking new ground, no pun intended. But why wouldn't we just roll this out? Start picking up compost?
Okay,
Go ahead, yep.
Through the chair to Councilor McGrogan. Yeah, so back to one of my earlier slides, about 30% of our waste in the gray carts right now is this divertible waste. So that's years of landfill airspace. So if we try to equate that to a new landfill cost, that would be pretty substantial. So I think even though it will be a fair big cost to do the future facility, the cost of a new landfill is going to be substantially more. Did that answer your question? Not really? I'll maybe ask Interim Manager Briggs. Maybe he's got a better
I'm just
handle.
wondering why we wouldn't just start this composting project from the ground up if we know it already works in other communities, or if this is some form of a requirement for the grant process, or what would be the purpose? That was my question.
I'll bring up Interim Manager Briggs. I think he probably has a better answer. Thanks.
Thank you. Through the, through the chair to Councilor McGrogan. So as part of the grant, basically a 60% diversion rate has to be recognized, which then kind of sets us up for the future, whether or not if we do roll into a full program that, we could obtain funding at a very low interest rate. And then as far as the pilot right now, so the pilot would include, right now there's just over 15,000 yard waste carts out there, people that opted in because it's an opt-in program. So basically what this pilot would consist of is just over 3,800 homes out of that 15,000, or 25%. And basically we would then show that we can get the 60% diversion rate in order to, well, one, qualify for the grant, and then look at entertaining a possible future facility.
Thank you. So, Councilor Robbins.
Oh, thank you. I just had two questions, I guess. One is, and it's about the waste management strategy. I like the way you've sort of given us an outline of what his strategy is to accomplish and how it changes with time. So that sort of like spurred my question, is in the previous 10 years waste management strategy, were there new technologies or principles that developed in the 10 years that are now informing the next 10 years? Or do you anticipate there's going to be changes in technology and principles, maybe legislation over the next 10 years compared to what's passed?
Yeah, that's a great question, through the chair to Councilor Robbins. So back in 2017, I believe it was, when we first looked at a program like this, we researched it. Technologies haven't changed that much, but we did research it, and then we hit the Financially Fit initiative, and we didn't go ahead with the program. And we've also, so as part of the pilot, that we would be looking at possible any more technology updates, basically a technology review. However, we do have a process in mind for the pilot, and then basically the part of the pilot would be look at any future better technologies that might service us better.
Can I ask a second question? And I'm also really curious about EPR, the extended producer responsibility. I read that in the report as well, and I thought it was such an interesting shift, and I wonder how that will, in your opinion, how you think that will affect us in Medicine Hat in our size of city.
Great question. So through the chair to Councillor Robbins. So the EPR, basically the framework, we've been a stakeholder in giving our feedback in the framework. The framework's pretty much, I guess it is complete. So basically we have pre-registered as a municipality for this service. And what this service basically does is the EPR shifts the liability back to the producer, away from the ratepayer and the municipality to pay for the recycling. So essentially the $8, I think it's $8.08 roughly a month on the utility bill, that should be, we're hoping, subsidized in the future by the producers, basically not municipality or in turn the ratepayer. And yes, that basically would come into effect on April 1st, 2024. And April 1st, 2025 is essentially when it comes right into regulator.
Can I just make one comment?
Yep.
As well, thank you very much. I will say that several of us attended Alberta Municipalities Conference, and so we were talking about what sort of hot button topics were in our different municipalities, and I heard from many municipal councillors throughout the province about how the citizens have lots of complaints about their waste collection. And I was very happy to just smile and go, oh, that must be hard, because we don't have that. So again, congratulations to all of those frontline workers and all the people who support them, because that is a big success in the province, believe me, from what I heard.
Great, thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions, I thank you very much to the both of you for your presentation, and I'm glad that the video worked out in the end. Okay.
13.1.
13.1.
I move that council approves the 2023 to 2032 waste management strategy.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the motion. Councillor Sharps, how do you vote? Councillor Sharps, how do you vote? All right, so we no longer have Councillor Sharps with us, and that's unanimous. Next item is item 13.2, which we've had some discussion about already. It's the food waste composting piloting report.
I move that council approves a city assets solid waste 2023 capital budget amendment of $1 million for a food waste composting piloting project funded through working capital, which subject to grant funding would be offset on a 50% cost sharing basis up to a maximum of $500,000.
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Van Dyke.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of comments. I was very excited when I saw this come through the committee agenda because questions about kitchen composting are frequent to me, emails and phone calls, and actually people, when I'm out and about in the public, a lot of people that have moved here from other cities that already have it, or people who have children that live in other cities that offer this program. And so I get a lot of questions of why can't we compost our kitchen scraps? You know, why aren't we doing the Lethbridge does it, you know, they list all the places. So I'm very excited about this pilot because I can then inform the public that we are working towards something and trialing it and getting hopefully some good data on how it will work in our community. So thank you.
Councillor McGrogan.
Thank you. I just have a question, I guess, in regards to the ask, which is the $1 million. Obviously, it's, you know, if we can get up to $500,000 from grant money, then, you know, we're looking at half that. And what I'm, I guess, curious about is, we're in the middle of a budget cycle, so 23, 24, and why the middle? Is there an urgency to this in relation to applying for the grant, or what would be the purpose for us coming now and not waiting until our next budget cycle? Thank you.
Managing Director Bohan?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to ask Director Garland to address that question. That's okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you through the chair to Councillor McGrogan. Good question. Why we want it tonight is we want to get started and apply for these grants and things. So waiting for the next budget cycle will just push everything back another year or so. So even right now, starting today, it's going to be, we're hoping to start this program to roll out next spring, summer, if we can. But without the funding piece, we can't apply for the grant either. So there has to be that commitment from the city. So that's why we're here today asking for it.
Councillor Knodel?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. This is almost as good as if we got backyard chickens. But I'm very supportive, and I'm eager to see what it looks like and how it rolls out. And I am the same as Councillor Van Dyke in that I hear a lot from the community that they're interested in it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it pans out.
Councillor Robbins?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. I'm all for anything that's going to ease my guilty mind about decisions I should make in the best interest of the environment that we're all trying to hold together for our children and our grandchildren. And I think a program like this is exactly what someone like me needs, where I can compost without the complications of managing my own compost, because I'm not going to do that. I haven't so far, and those who have, I'm so glad that you do, but if there's an easy way that we can all do it, that would be great. I'm also hearing today that the long-term cost of filling our landfill and then trying to create a bigger landfill is going to be a lot more than this $1 million. So I'm supportive of this budget request.
Seeing no further speakers, we will vote on the motion as presented on the screen.
Mayor Clark,
Yes, Councillor Sharps, how do you vote?
I can't see the screen. Would you mind reading that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I move that council approves a city assets solid waste 2023 capital budget amendment of $1 million for a food waste composting piloting project funded through working capital, which, subject to grant funding, would be offset on a 50% cost sharing basis up to a maximum of $500,000.
Thank you.
It is also in the agenda under the recommendation.
I keep getting kicked out of Teams, so I'm limiting what I can, otherwise I'm just keep getting kicked out here.
Okay, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. That's unanimous. The next item is item 13.3, Drainage and Erosion Remediation Infrastructure Program Budget Amendment. Go ahead, Managing Director Stouth.
Thank you, Your Worship. In front of you is a council report regarding a $100,000 budget amendment for a drainage and erosion remediation project. This is a good news story. Parks and Recreation was able to apply for and successfully receive $100,000 in grant funding. So we are wanting to add that to our project. 21 kilometers of our Heritage Trail system is part of the Trans-Canada Trail, and part of that's the Northwest Riverside Trail, which is subject to scouring and erosion from the river. What we are doing with the $378,000 is some drainage and erosion remediation on that section of the trail, and the $100,000 grant funding that if council approves the amendment to add that to us, is going to allow us to do some further work on that section of the trail, some additional work on that section of the trail, including getting the necessary provincial and federal approvals in place for that work. So that's the nature of the ask. Thank you.
Anyone care to make a motion?
I will. There's actually two parts to this motion. There's also some funding that was provided of $2,000 for Trans-Canada Trail as well, so there'll be two parts of the motion. And we did discuss this at Public Services. So I move the council approves an increase in the PKRC 2023 TCA Drainage and Erosion Remediation Infrastructure Program funding from $378,000 to $478,000, provided by a third-party grant in the Trans-Canada Trail. And the second part of the motion is the acceptance of $2,000 from a third party, this again is Trans-Canada Trail, for operating to be used for the decommissioning and repurposing of the Trans-Canada Trail Pavilion in Strathcona Island Park.
I will second the motion.
Any discussion? Councillor Robbins?
I just wanted to give some context to the second part. That's if you walk down to the end of Strathcona Island Park, past the ball fields, there's a little pavilion at the end, and so that $2,000 is for that little pavilion to be decommissioned and repurposed. And with respect to the other funding, I think that we understand this from what Managing Director Stout has said, but we had a budget already for this work, and we're able to increase the budget by $100,000 because we have a grant of $100,000. So in case when people are hearing this, they're saying, what are they spending more money for? It's because we were successful in the grant to get more money. So our options would be to spend less, I guess, and use the grant, or be able to do more things to the trail with the money. And so that's the option that's been proposed by administration here.
Seeing no further speakers, we'll vote on the motion. Councillor Sharps, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
That's unanimous. Moving on to golf course new lease agreements, item 13.4. Managing Director Stouth.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is in front of you a council report which renews the lease agreements that we have with two golf courses, Connaught Golf Club and Medicine Hat Golf and Country Club. These are lease agreements that would be effective January 2024 and run to December 31st, 2033. These leases expired in 2020 and through COVID, and that time period we tried to make progress on lease negotiations. It was a bit of a time-consuming process. However, we've got the lease agreements ready for council approval. Just some of the highlights. It is still a $1 a year lease. However, we've changed the capital investment requirement from $30,000 to $30,500 to $37,000 per year. It's a 10-year term, and upon mutual agreement of the parties, we could extend it a further 10 years. New this time is the ability of the city to just do some inspection on the city-owned facilities that are on those city-owned lands to make sure that the buildings and facilities are maintained to city standards. We've given the club some flexibility in their capital improvement requirements in case they have to do any of the work on any of those buildings. We're allowing them to do that. Yeah, and I think those are some of the high points that are in the lease agreements, and I'm happy to answer any questions of council just in regards to any specifics.
Would anyone care to make a motion?
I can make that motion. I move that council approves entering into new lease agreements with the Medicine Hat Golf and Country Club and the Connaught Golf Club with the agreements containing the key terms and conditions as stated in the report and other terms and conditions to the satisfaction of the city manager and city solicitor.
I will second that motion.
Seeing no speakers, Counselor, we'll vote on the motion. Oh, Counselor Hirsch.
I apologize, I just wanted to get it on the floor and then I was gonna chat. Just general comments, I don't really have a question, just maybe a note of thanks in terms of A, the golf courses, and B, city staff working with these groups. Interestingly enough, we've had some challenges back in the day looking at and working with the golf courses. Sometimes their capital plans can get pretty expensive. We chat a little bit as a golfer myself. I know just even replacing a green or working on some of that stuff could be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's pretty imperative that we, A, have a good working knowledge of are they sufficiently funded to be able to take on the tasks. I actually accept the idea of a 10-year term because the commentary was difficult for them, A, to get any grants, and B, quite kind of on the longevity piece. We've heard from other user groups that have asked for a longer term as well, because if they invest in their infrastructure only to get the expiry happen to them, then it's almost a waste of money that they put into that. So having a longer term for them, and quite frankly, the way things are going, we just want to do whatever we can to support. I think the transparency piece as well, the fact that the financial statements aren't being presented, the activities, the supervision, to be able to go on to the premises, take a look, because again, this is the land that we rent, again, for $1. So I think there just has to be that kind of open and honest transparency, and I'm pleased to see the efforts that's been done on both sides for this, so I fully support it. Thank you.
Counselor Sharps.
Hi, and thank you. And through the chair, here, I'll turn my camera on there. I just wanted to make a comment and provide some feedback. First of all, a big thank you to Managing Director Stout. I know that you walked into this position that we were all screaming about leases. So I appreciate that these are done and they're done well and they're done to the satisfaction of not just the municipality, but the golf courses. One of the things I wanted to bring up was I know there was a conversation earlier about potentially are we investing into a sport that's, struggling and there's a loss of membership. So I actually wanted to give you some numbers because I was on the phone with their finance person earlier over a different matter. And memberships from last year to this year have dropped, that would be correct, by 4 people. But green fees and corporate memberships have almost doubled. So what we're seeing is a bit of a change in the demographics and how they're choosing to play so that they can play in different locations. So I just wanted to pass that information on.
Seeing no further speakers, we'll vote on the motion. Counselor Sharps, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
That's unanimous. Next item is 13.5, Bylaw 4798 to amend the gas utility bylaw. This item is for first reading only. There will be a public hearing on this item on November 20th, 2023.
I move that council considers first reading of bylaw 4798 to amend the gas utility bylaw.
Second.
All right, we'll vote on the first reading of bylaw 4798 to amend the gas utility bylaw. Counselor Sharps, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
That's unanimous. Seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 7:49 p.m.